Hi, we're going to be talking about a big Java book, chapter 2. We're talking about graphical application. I'm making this in a two-part. Part 1, we're going to start about how to build the whole thing, and then we're going to add some more drawing at the end of it. So we can think about it as a frame, that we're going to have a frame and we're going to put the stuff in it. So if I want to put a picture frame, we're going to put some stuff in it. That's the way we're going to be thinking about this for now. So first we have to create an object. Remember, we cannot do anything till we create an object. So all these classes are created. So we're going to be using the classes it's already created. We just need to know how to create a new object of them and what kind of methods are available for us to use it to do what we want to do. And of course, if you have a good IDE, when you create an object and you call it, the object that you created with a dot operator is going to bring all the methods for you and you can choose it. And as you play with it, you're going to get used to some of these things. Of course, I'm not expecting you to memorize all these things for the test, but some basic stuff you should know. So first thing first, we need to create an object. So the class is called JFrame, and then we're going to call it whatever we want to call. Let me put. So we can call it anything we want. In here, we call it a frame. We're going to create a JFrame. Remember, we're going to call the constructor of JFrame with no parameters. Now that we built the frame, we're going to be calling its method. So one of the methods is to set the size. So we can, remember, we're going to use this object that we created over here, and we're going to call the set size. Remember, we talked about setters and getters. So in general, that's what we have as accessors and mutators. Mutators are setters, accessors are getters. So if I want to get the size or I want to set the size. So I'm going to use a dot operator to set the size 300 by 400 width and length. The next one is we're going to put the title on it. So again, we're going to have another method called set title. That's going to set my title, whatever I want to put on the title for that frame. Then we're going to define what do we want to do when we're going to call the close the X on the top right corner. When we click on it, what do we want to do? In this case, this one is doing the set default close operation. It's going to set it to exit on close. There are different options here. They are defined as numbers, but we talk about the final. That's a constant variables, and those we have. So JFrame.exit on close is the same as number 3. But of course, you can look at this one and you know what is it doing. But if I put a number 3, then you have to go look it up. So what is number 3? What is number 2? Next, after we do all these things, the most important part is what? To set it visible. If you don't set visible to true, you did all of these things, you are not going to see anything. So you have to set it to set visible to true, and then you're going to get a window like this. Okay, so let's go over it one more time. So first thing first, we're going to create a new frame. So where are these things coming from? They are coming in from Java X Swing, JFrame. So we have to import those classes that we want to use. In here, because the JFrame is coming from this one right here. So we need the import on it. And then we're going to call the constructor with no parameters. Then we're going to set the size. We're going to set the title. So the title is going to go here. The size, we're talking about the width against the height or length. Then we're going to set the close operation to exit on close. So when I click this X, my program is going to end. And if I don't put the visible true, I'm not going to see this. So that's what we did over here. Let's move on to the next section. So we have a frame. We want to put the stuff in the frame. So the stuff, we call it J component. We're going to have some component that we're going to put it inside the frame. Now we have a frame, we want to put stuff in it. I have a picture frame, I want to put a picture in it. Now, there are a couple of things over here that we are going to be talking about it. So we're going to be using a word extends, and then we're going to say J component. This is inheritance. For those coming in from 3A and 8, you should know what I'll be talking about. The people coming in from CS2, you don't know this yet. Don't worry about it. It's just the inheritance, explaining it in there. We're going to get back to it in chapter 9 or so. Another thing that the 3A, 8 students should know is polymorphism. I hope you know that. That's going to be one of the questions in your interview, generally, if you go for an object-oriented programming. So polymorphism means you can have a different kind of this object that coming in, and we can put it through. So in this case, even though this is a graphic G, we can pass graphics 2D as an object here. Again, for CS2 students, don't worry about it too much. We will get to know these things later. So what we are going to be using over here, we're going to be using graphic 2D. So even though the object comes in, because it comes in as a parent, it wouldn't have all the methods that we want. So we have to typecast it to graphics 2D. So for CS2 student, just type it in like this. Let's use it. For 3A, 8, you should know what I'm talking about. All right, moving on. So we have a draw method. Remember, we're going to have something called paint component. We saw it over here, paint component. So we're going to be, whatever we're going to call this, that's our class. We just got to say that it's going to be extending J component. And inside here, we're going to have a paint component. So that's our component. So inside of that, we did our typecast to graph G2, and now we're going to be using it. So we're going to create a rectangular. Let me fix this. Okay. So we are creating a rectangle. Okay, we are creating a rectangle. We're not doing any thing in that. We're going to create a rectangular. That means we have to have the class of rectangular somewhere, and then we're going to set it in there, and then we're going to call the draw method of G2, which was our graphic 2D, and then we're going to draw this box, whatever box is that we created over here. I know there are a lot of steps, especially for CS2 students. Just get it done one at a time, and then we play with it. So if I am looking at the drawing, generally in programs that you're using, I mean, you might coming from the algebra or some math classes that you know the drawing, and generally over there we have 4 areas from minus x to plus x, minus y to plus y. Here, we don't have a negative numbers. Everything is positive. So we're going to use only one coordinate of this whole thing. So because we don't have any negative numbers, our drawing is going to start 0, 0 top left. Our x is the same. It's going to go to the right. But our y is going to go down. Okay? So in this case, my x is going to be what? 5. So that's going to be 5 right here. And then my y is going to be, sorry, the other way around. My x is 5. That means from here to here is 5, and my y is 10. That means from here to here is 10. So that's my x and y. So that's the way it works. So 25, 40, again, x is 25 right here, and y is 40 right here. So that's what the way we're going to do. Most of the graphics are happening like that. We don't have negative numbers. So we can create a frame like this, but remember, we're going to create a frame, we're going to create a component, and then we're going to put the component inside the frame. Think about it that way. And we can create them separately. And for Java, because everything is created class, you create a project, you create a class for everything you need. So you're going to create a class for your drawing part, you're going to create a class to do your main or frames, and then you put them together. And of course, as you go along and making these more complex, you're going to have more classes. We have a little more complex graphics coming in chapter 20. We're going to look at it in the middle of the class so we can use it for our projects. Okay, let's go through the whole thing. So let's go look at the input. So I need my graphics and I need my 2D graphic. And I need a rectangular. So I need those classes to be able to do things. I have seen some people doing the dot star. Don't do that. It's less efficient. You can do it, but it's not efficient. You're going to be doing tons of things into your program. It's like you're going to be driving 18-wheelers to school. So that's not good. So the J component is part of Java X swing. So we need that one too. Now, we are talking about our paint component, which extends J component. Okay, so this is a class by itself. We are building a class. Again, CS2 students are going to have a little harder time on this, but it's okay. You just create a class. So when you have a project, you go new class. You create a new class and you put this one in there. Okay, so we have a method called paint component that's going to get the graphic. Remember, it has to be exactly like that name in there. And then we're going to typecast it to the 2D. So now the object that came in, we're going to change it to 2D. Now we have all those, and we can call it anything we want. So we are creating a G2 that's going to take this G, typecast it to graphics 2D. Now we have all the methods of graphic 2Ds available for us to use. But how are we going to do that? Now, first thing first, we're going to create a rectangle. Remember, you cannot use anything till you create an object. So I'm going to create an object of rectangular. We did this before. So we put some numbers in there and we're going to create this rectangular object. Now we're going to call the draw method using a dot operator with this object that came to us. And then we're going to draw this box. We created the box over here. That's a rectangular. You can call it anything you want. And then we're going to draw it. Now we're going to call the translate. Remember, translate was doing what? Adding 15 to X, adding 25 to 10. So it's going to move it. It's going to change the 5 to 20, Y to 35. Then we're going to draw it. Now we had one box, now we have the other box. So we have that component, but it's not going to work by itself. We have to put it in the frame to show it. So we have to create a frame and then add the component to the frame. And remember, you don't want to do all of these things. This is where the design is going to come handy. You're not going to do all of these things at the same time. You're going to do one, you're going to do the other one, you connect them together. So you can do your component, and then you're going to do your frame, and then you connect them together. So children are making some small art pieces. They're going to build these art pieces, and then we're going to take it and put it in our frame to hang it in the classroom. Okay, so we're going to do the frame, we're going to do the component, and then we're going to combine them together. Now, step one is what? To create a frame object. Step two is to create a component object. Remember, right now in your program, you have two classes. One is for your main, we're doing the frame in there, and one is going to be for our component. And then, so that's the way we're going to do the rectangular component. Remember, rectangular component is your class that you created. So this is your class that you created. So we're going to call it whatever we want to call it. We're going to create a rectangular component. Now we're going to add this component to the frame by just saying frame.add component. And of course, we're going to make the frame visible. All right, so in our main, we are going to create our frame. Remember, we had 4 steps for the frame. We're going to set the size. We're going to set the title. We're going to do the exit on close. Now we're going to create a new component. This is coming from the class that we wrote. This is something that we wrote. And then we're going to add it to the frame. And then we're going to set the visible to true. Again, if you don't do this, you're not going to be able to see it. So remember these steps, write it down somewhere, and then you can use it. All right, so we got our self-checks. I'm going to set to 1 minute each. You need more time, put it under pause, get a piece of paper or create a document in your computer so you can answer these things. I generally give you about 1 minute. If you need more, just pause it, take as much time as you need. This is for your own practice. How do you display a square frame with a title bar that reads Hello World? Remember 4 steps that we had. Okay, I'm moving on, but if you need more time, just push pause on it, please. Next question is, how can a program display 2 frames at once? Okay, next one is, how do you modify the program to draw 2 squares. This should be easier, but take your time. Write it down somewhere. Okay. How do you modify the program to draw one rectangular and one square? One rectangular and one square. Okay, what happens if you call g.draw box instead of g2.draw box? I'm just going to give you 30 seconds on this one.